Yeah, so a lot of what's going on with me recently, I think with a lot of us who are Americans right now, struggling with something we've never really seen before. I think some of it is very similar, some of this old timey Barnum and Bailey bullshit, but it's definitely taken a dark twist. And I've noticed as a musician that like time's limited, man, and I wish I was a lot more productive than I was, but I got to get out there and hustle. I don't have the luxury of pretending like I'm a fucking rock star or some shit. Like I got to work a day job, man. Yeah. Anyway, my grandmother passed away a couple of years ago, and she's almost 100. But I finally got this book, and this was a book I saw when I was a child. Like they read passages out of it, my grandmother and grandfather. Part of being American is knowing who and what you are. And I think that's the case with anything. If you don't know who and what you are, you can be lost. And I think that on my mom's side, my mom would always tell us that we were Northern Italian, and my mom and my dad divorced when we were young, and it turned out that on my mom's side we were Swedish, and we have family in Malmo and a family cabin and all this stuff. And it's very cool. They talk to us, and I appreciate it. It's fucking great. Love you guys. But on my dad's side, they came from Russia. And anyway, it turns out we're descendants of the Slavic tribes, the Wims and the Sorbs. And it's kind of complicated, right? Because they got like a strong German last name. And, I'm sure I've got a lot of German blood in me, it's probably par for course. But it turns out we're Slavic. When I tell people that, they don't get it. It's like, well, you're German, you're not Slavic. And I'm like, no, it's complicated, We're not Russian either. But yeah, we're Wolgadeutsche. And so I am an American, but that's a part of who I am. And yeah, I've had Birox and fucking. My dad was a meat packer. I'd wake up in the morning and my dad fucking cranking out sausages and shit, and like a lot of stews, fucking sauerkraut, all that shit, man. And it turns out that our culture is very Germanic, and I got to have some of that. I'll be around it. Big family gatherings and all that stuff on my dad's side. But they've been through a lot together. And it turns out I have a lot of fucking cousins. Every fucking year. Yeah. But I think the thing that gets to me is like I grew up in Central California. My mother was worked in the cannery, and my father was a meat packer. He later got into tech. My mom eventually became a school teacher. But in my formative years, they had working class jobs, and I grew up in the Central Valley of California, on the outskirts of Merced County. My neighbors were migrant workers, and as I grew up and got older, a lot of my Mexican American homies started realizing that they were Native American. And the realization that they had was that their elders quickly realized that it was just safer to say that you were Mexican American than say that you were Native American, because, as everyone knows, they don't get treated well in this great nation. And I'm going through something similar, I'm not Native American, man, but I'm Slavic, And yeah, I'm sure a big part of me is German, and obviously I'm Swedish, but yeah, I think some of that stuff, it's well documented with this book that one of my cousins wrote, that the reason why we ended up in Russia was because of all the turmoil that was going on in Central Europe at the time, back a couple hundred years ago. And there's a lot behind it. My grandfather would tell me that, our name Reuscher isn't really our last name. It was derived from a German last name that they superimposed on whatever our last name was, because it's how they could pronounce it in German, because they didn't have the letters in German to pronounce her name properly. And as I dug into history with this book, I started to understand all the fighting that was going on, like villages being lit on fire because no one could get along. Everyone wanted to be the fucking king or the emperor or some bullshit. I also learned that if you didn't speak German, and if you were a Slav, and you were Eastern German like we were, you had to speak German or you wouldn't get a job, you know. But it turns out like we're really closely related to the Czechs, Slovaks, Polish, and but our culture is really German, you know. Anyway, I think in light of all that's going on in this world, I'm just kind of processing this and realizing that this is kind of, whether I realize it or not, a big part of my identity, you know, and the overlap with Slavic cultures and, you know, even German stuff, like, you know, there's a little bit of differences there, and Latin American culture, and realizing that I really didn't grow up far away from home, you know, I grew up around my culture, and I got nothing but love for my Mexican American and Native American homies, man. I spent some time in Alaska, and yeah. Anyway, I've been paying attention. I'm an ally, you know. I'm an ally, and I recognize that my privilege in this country is my color of skin. Because had we remained in Europe, I mean, I might not exist. Because apparently, 1 million of my people were done away with not long after my family left. Gulagged or starved. So yeah, I think it's important that we know who and what we are, and that we never forget. All right, look out for each other. That's all we have. All right, fuck the corporation.